Alright, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and this one is going to be another deck profile, one of many that I've been doing, and mainly based on the Dropbox 6 stuff and some of the new black support that it got. Of course, this one features one of my favorite leaders, which is Xeno Goku. I think you can probably play this in a lot of different ways, I would say, not only the leader but the deck engine itself, because it's pretty generic. It's mainly catered to mono black strategies, and I don't think you can probably put that in anything else other than a black leader. But I do think that this is the best leader for what it wants to do, which is basically swing face, put out a lot of skillless stuff, and then use some of the black utility that it has access to in order to win the game. Of course, if you have any other ideas, any other suggestions as far as what decks to take a look at, or if you have your own list, definitely put it in the comments below. Subscribe if you are new, and definitely follow me on Twitch in the description below in case you want to see me go live and put any of these decks to work as far as gameplay goes whenever I have a chance for that. Okay, let's talk about the leader real quick. So for those who are unaware, this is basically goat tints but in black. You burst 3 as you mill 3, and then you add up to 1 card, which you don't have to take a card from your life if you don't want to, if you don't want to awaken, or if you're being aggroed down and you just want to take the swing. And then the awaken is untap 1, draw 1. And this is always interesting to see this leader not being played or people asking about it, which is why I added this section in the first place, because it just so happened that every single time that I play this leader, people always have questions about it. So there you go. And then awaken side is that he has double strike as a permanent, so no matter what, basically the awakening turn basically is that you burst 3, you take a life, or just take the draw, awaken, untap 1, draw 1, and then the backside will always have that double strike, which the permanent, every black battle card in your warp gains 5k on your turn. So it could be a 20k, 30k, however many that you have during that point of the game. And then the activate main is that you place up to 4 black battle cards from your warp in your drop area, and then you draw 1 card. Of course, it's up to 1. You don't have to, or up to 4. You don't have to in order to draw the card. But I think it's very, very useful for not only Overrealm but the other stuff that we have within the deck that cater towards that sort of effect. And of course, this is not the first time I put out a deck profile for this guy. I think the previous deck profile was more like Vegex related, and I think this is sort of more catering towards, again, the effects that it has, the aggression that it can put out, and as well as just being a nice generic black leader. I think that's where this leader wants to be and what it wants to do. And as far as the purpose, or at least what the one of the reasons why I even made this deck in the first place, is basically these 2 cards that came out of Dropbox 3. So the Trunks on the left is the 4-drop that you pay 4 Overrealm, and you pay 2 open energy, or 2 generic energy. And it basically says when you play Overrealm, or we play this with Overrealm, you get to play a 3 costs or less skillless black battle card from your deck or your warp, which is interesting. The fact that it has warp is actually really, really good, simply because sometimes you'll just be bursting so much out of your leader or other effects, whatever you put in, that is, and they end up in warp. So they end up in drop, then you Overrealm, and now you can take from warp. Ideally, you want to take it from the drop, or the deck, that is, in order to thin out your deck, and then make sure you mill out other pieces that you want to, or just draw into other pieces that you want to. Is just basic deck thinning. And of course, on the right side is the Xeno Goku. This is a 30k body, which has the Xeno Goku tag, which is pretty important for other things, as in like the evolve Xeno Goku that we got in the previous sets. I don't play that in this deck, but it is something that to consider. I just don't think the game will go that long, and I don't think the effects are worth for that much energy that you're paying, which is, I believe, is 5. Either way, it's a new Saiyan 30k, which is different from Nariyama and different from, I think, one other card, but this is really, really nice to have those traits. The other thing is that we play the Nimbus Master, in which, again, the auto is that when you combo this for a 10k, at the end of the turn, you get to play a skillless 2-drop from your deck or drop area, which is going to be the one on the right side, which is the new Vegeta Xeno card coming out of the Dropbox 2. And of course, the other effect that you can use with your leader in order to drop a card warp into the drop area, you can pay 1 to warp a skillless battle card, doesn't matter what it is, it's a 3-drop or a 2-drop, to the warp and then play it from your hand. Now you have a 15k attacker. This is another thing that I've been talking about before. This is probably going to be popping up in other deck profiles as well, but I really like this card. It is nice. It's a nice defensive option that gets to play something on their turn. The only downside is that in other decks, the 0/5s or the skillless 2-drops are 0/5s and can act as combo power as well for later, and these guys are just 0/0s. But it is kind of a trade-off in what you want to do and to keep it in mono black. Okay, let's talk about the list itself. This is the full list, which I will explain in a second, but we have a number of kind of staples within this leader in my opinion, as in the Wickedness Incarnate, in which again you can do this same thing, putting a black battle card from your warp into your drop, paying 1 and then pitching a black card at the end of the turn and then drawing 2. That'll help you cycle, that'll help you pitch these guys, maybe even these guys out of your hand because they're pretty much useless out of your hand, and then also fill your overwhelm for the end of the turn, or for the next turn, that is. And then we also have Secret Identity, which is really nice to have a free overwhelm. Same thing for Man on the Mission. They both sort of serve their purpose into having an aggression and to utilize your drop area whenever you can, because sometimes it just doesn't happen. Maybe that's just untapped, but still. And then also for removal and more aggression, the Prince Strikes Back is just really good in just general, simply because you get to cycle your 2-drops and 3-drops out of your hand. Being able to play those from deck from the 4-drop and as well as Dimension Support, it's really good. And then also just being able to draw 2 as early as turn 3 is just great for that. And then we have Dimension Support Trunks. Having a turn 1 play, basically going second. Going first, of course, you're playing 1-drop Goku, and then going second, you're playing the Dimension Support Trunks, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's basically the whole idea, in order to establish a board state early and then just start swinging as much as you can. Now, the other thing is Protecting the People is just kind of an optional slot here. I just liked it because in some... Like, this is a aggro deck, but it's like going tallish wide, if that makes sense. It's not doing a lot of things in one turn. It's more of like as the curve goes up and as the game goes longer, you're getting more and more advantage. And I think Protecting the People is quite good in the instances where they're not doing that, but they're doing a lot of actions per turn while you're doing 1 or 2. But yeah, though that's one of the things to kind of take note. I think I had 3 Power Bursts and then 2 Protecting the People if you want to use those ratios instead. I already kind of talked about these guys. Dark Demon God Demigra is another thing that I was talking about in the Demigra deck profile. If you haven't checked that out, definitely check that out if you haven't. And this is just good as a removal, as draw, as another 30k body that they deal with. It's just really good. I can't really talk too much about that. The Mass Saiyan is another thing that I talked about before, in which it's just really good against double strike, triple strike, anything double strike critical, anything later into the game that you can just take a life and then not take damage and just prevent the loss from there. Also, they always have to think about that. Of course, it is a Overwhelm 6, I do believe, for a 30k body for free, which is great. And then you can return black battle cards from your warp into your drop, which includes the 2-drop as well. And then the 1-drop Kai is really good because of the leader effect. You can just do it for free. You can get it from Power Burst. It's just great going for game or defending yourself afterwards. And then we also have 2 Double Strike Champa with the 30ks and 20ks and the 4-star balls that we play. They're really good. It's just really good for aggression. Not much to say about that. Nimbus Master we kind of talked about, but overall you kind of see the whole thing about this deck and what it wants to do is basically playing all of these hard to deal with threats that are vanilla and can come out pretty easily. And that's sort of the thing that I think this game is kind of going. Either you do something really consistent, you do something really annoying, or you do something that's easy to play out, basically, either for free or for a low cost. And that's kind of where some of these things are within this deck. Now we're talking about sequencing. Now the turn 1 is basically what I was talking about before. If you're going second, you want to swing with leader, burst those 3, doesn't matter really what it is. You overwhelm, pay the 1, you get the 2 drop out, and then you start swinging after that for the 20k critical. The alternative, if you're going first, you can either go the 1-drop Kid Coup, and of course the other thing I didn't talk about is that the second turn you can just pay 2 in case you don't have anything in your hand, and then just play out a skillless 30k from there. And now you're just a aggressive, just as aggressive Kid Coup OG leader. So there you go. But you get the 4-star ball from your deck, so that way you don't have to mill it out. Or if you do mill out, you can just get it from your drop. But generally, you want to get it from the deck early on. Or you can just pass the turn with 1 open energy and then just play Nimbus Master from that. If you know they're going to be swinging with a critical or a double striker and you don't want to take that damage. Turn 2 is going to be the Changing History Trunks or another Kid Coup / or the 2-drop Kid Coup effect that it has, or the True Power Unleash Demon God Demigrub. All of these are really good plays because you establish a 20k attacker with your 10k leader, and as well as a 30k attacker afterwards. If you have the 1-drop Kid Coup on there, you have a 40k attacker with the 30k. Or if you have the Demon God Demigrub, you're most likely going to have 5-drop or 5 black cards in the drop. You can pay the Dark Overwhelm and then draw the card or remove something, and as well as warp a card. And then turn 3 is kind of the same thing. Secret Identity is just for removal, and then Champa is just for more optional damage. Now, as far as the cards to consider, this is where it gets a little tricky. There's a couple cards like the 1-drop extra card that if you negate and you pitch a card, you get to play a 3-drop out of your hand. I tested it. It's not that great. I don't like it simply because you neg so many cards out of your hand. And it's just not, it doesn't feel good. And there's a couple other cards that I won't mention, but some of the ones that do matter are the Vegex line, as in some of these. This is really good against blue and a number of other decks that just can't deal with this sort of threat, as in they have to get up to 25k, and if most of their attackers are 15k or 20k, it's very, very hard to get around it. Plus it has barrier, plus you can play it from your warp. But these guys are the main thing, which I'll get into in a little bit. The 1-drop Majin Buu Instinction Attack is probably one of my favorite cards. I just didn't find the room for this. It's just that when you swing with leader, this is probably one of the best things to use your energy for. Not only that you can burst more cards in order to use Overwhelm for anything else, but you also get to disrupt their warp. Plus now on the flip side, you're a 30k double striker for your leader. So this does a lot for you, and I really do highly recommend to find some space for that. The Super Saiyan Gotenks is just nice because it's free. That's it. And then these 2 or these 3 unisons is basically the line of black unisons. It just really depends on what you want to do. I don't really find these 2 great because the curve for the deck is already set, and I don't really want to use any other energy to do this. And I think these are really good early on. Towa's really good for simple removal, a 20k body that they can't really remove for a while, and also it's Towa, so there you go. And then we also have Vegeta, and as well as Super Saiyan 4 Son Gohan. The Super Saiyan 4 Gohan is probably better for this deck simply because you play off the leader skill. You are going to be overwhelming every so often, and the -3 is pretty easy to get to, and you get to return black battle cards, including these guys over here from there, basically. And then we also have the Vegeta, in which is good, but I don't think it's really all that worth. Just something to consider. And I know there's a lot of other black bottle cards that I didn't list. I'm not going to list. You can always put it in the comments below and ask me there, because always someone always forgets to either watch the whole thing, doesn't have time to watch the whole thing. I've already asked or broken down why I didn't play a card, and then they ask about it, and I'm like, well, I did talk about it in a video. So definitely let me know in the comments below, or if you didn't watch this and you are putting something in the comments below, I probably already answered it for you. Now, here's the alternative list, and the reason why I said I was going to come back to the Vegex line is because of this. This is basically the same list, but with Vegex in it. And the reason why I like this is because it adds not only 2 double strikers with 25k and 30k, sort of the theme of this deck in the first place, but also a really good turn 3 play. You are going to be utilizing the tags for Trunks Zeno and as well as the Vegeta. Basically, you are playing, what, 7 copies of the Vegeta anyway. Technically 11 copies with this guy here, right? Yeah, because it'd be turn 1 the Dimension Support Trunks, and then you play out the Vegeta. If they remove the Vegeta, which is pretty common, you get to overwhelm again and send that thing to the warp, and then you have the Trunks Xeno and this guy Xeno into the warp in order to play the Vegex. You reduce the line for the Son Goku and as well as Demigra, and it doesn't really matter too much. Man in the Mission is also another option, but it's just less regression, more mid-range in order to play the Vegex. But I think with the trade-off for the removal for this guy, getting a black bottle card from your warp from there, is just really good in general. So honestly, I think the deck as is for both versions are great. I think you should definitely try it out. Definitely let me know your thoughts below as I go away, hopefully. Okay, there you go. Definitely follow me on Twitch in the description below if you want to see me play any of the decks that I've been showcasing in the last week or so, and of course the ones in the future. And I will see you in the next one.